Welcome to the Guitar Gavel Lick of the Week, where special guest musicians walk you through a short lick to add to your bag of tricks. If you have questions about the lick, drop them in the comments section. And if you like what you see, please leave a 5-star review and share the lick of the week with your friends.
Hello, guitar gavelers. Some of the guys in the guitar gaveling community have spoken about some of their instruments. So I thought I would like to share some info about one of the instruments that I'm lucky enough to own. So this is a Martin OM-28 Authentic 1931. So this is an instrument which is an exact replica of, as it happens, Mike Seeger's OM-28. So, well, as close as it can be. So this has got Madagascar rosewood back and sides. The problem with Brazilian rosewood, which the original one has, is that it's quite difficult to ship it over state and international borders because it's an endangered species. So it is in the same classification as rhino horn and ivory and tortoise shell and things like that. So this is Madagascar rosewood, which is as close as we can get where we don't have those problems. And like the original, this has got an Adirondack spruce top, and to kind of try to replicate the drying out that happens over time, this top has been through a process called torrefication, where it's kind of like baked. So all of the sap in it crystallizes as it does over time with vintage instruments. Now, lots of the things about this are not things that normally would happen in Martin's production. So the original instrument didn't have an adjustable truss rod in the neck. It had a T-bar truss rod. So a T-shaped steel rod that runs up there to strengthen the neck. I can't imagine actually that the neck would need strengthening because it's quite a big chunky neck like the original guitars were. But nonetheless, it's got this steel T-shaped reinforcement in the neck, and that's fundamentally better than an adjustable truss rod, although of course it isn't adjustable, because an adjustable truss rod acts like a spring, and because you can turn it to increase or decrease the tension on the neck, so therefore the bend on the neck. This is fixed in place, so it's glued in, so it acts as if the neck is just simply one piece rather than having a spring which can soak up some of the energy from the strings. Like all OM-28s, this is a long scale, so it's 25.4 inches, and it's got a 1 3/4 inch nut. We have actually got, I believe, a Brazilian rosewood faceplate on here, but that's a small enough piece that it doesn't fall under CITES classification. It has Waverley tuners, kind of like the original one would have had. In fact, the original ones sometimes had banjo tuners, so they were mounted round the other way, but they quickly changed over to Waverley tuners. It has an ebony fingerboard and bridge, and it could have been specified, this one wasn't, but it could have been specified with bar frets like the original ones were. This has also got, like the originals, grained ivoroid, which is made of celluloid, and it's got the same back zipper that the original one would have had, and the same size of pickguard, which is quite thin. And actually the pickguard for these original instruments was placed on the body before the guitar was varnished, which is quite interesting. So the varnish is over the top, so it's a very smooth finish between the pickguard and the edge of the guitar. The varnish is also what they call vintage gloss, so it's sprayed and then it's slightly knocked back with buffing compound, so it's not as high gloss as a new one, although the neck is very high gloss. Yeah, but the biggest change is that these authentic range of instruments were put together with hide glue rather than modern glue. And hide glue is quite difficult to work with, but it is actually a better way to glue things together because, like the baking of the wood, the glue crystallizes and makes the bridge, for example, when it sticks onto the front, makes the bridge and the front behave as if it's one piece. But the biggest advantage is that it's very easy to dismantle a guitar that's glued with hide glue, because you warm it up and the glue becomes liquid again, and then you can easily dismantle it. Anyway, this is one of my favourite guitars. It's by no means my most expensive or rarest guitar, but it's one of the favourite guitars that I have because it's really captured that vintage vibe. So it's got that smooth sound, but still quite bright with some projection that you would expect of a vintage instrument. And the beauty of these is that they have a lot of the sound and the feel of a vintage instrument, but none of the structural issues that you might expect, particularly because it's a long scale, which means the strings are under more tension, although I've tuned this down by half a step because I think it sounds better like that. Which means that there's about 160, 170 pounds of pull from the strings. Now bear in mind the front is only 1.5 to 2 millimeters thick, so the fronts on guitars do tend to deform over time. So a nice new guitar, I think this one is 2016, a nice new guitar doesn't face any of those structural issues. So I would thoroughly recommend that you try to find one of the authentic range of guitars to have a play if you get the opportunity. They did and I think they still do a D-28. They did the OM-28, they did an OM-18, they do a D-18, and they also did a 12 fret D-18S. Now, all of these are hide glued, and all of these are exceptional examples of what Martin can do, and certainly significantly better than the mainstream of production that they do, because whilst they are made in a factory, they're individually handcrafted and they're hand voiced, and they haven't got any of the modifications that Martin made at various points during their life to try to make the instruments more robust. So often if you're buying a Martin guitar, they will talk about forward shifting the X brace. So this one's particularly good because it's a forward shifted X brace. Now, the reason is that it's just shifting them back to the position they were in originally. The reason that Martin moved the X brace back was to reduce warranty claims because it gave the bridge more support, but it also impacted on the sound. So this instrument has scalloped bracing, like the original would have done. It has a forward shifted X brace back to its original position. It's glued with hide glue, so it's pretty much as close as they can get to manufacturing a guitar as it would have been in 1931, the guitar that this was modelled on. So if you get the chance, have a play. Happy gavelling.